Okay, I think we'll get started. So good morning, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lucy Story. I'm the marketing manager for schools and colleges. With me today is Nick Golding from the Access platform, speaking about peer-to-peer recruitment. So you will have noticed the trend in recent years of the importance that peer-to-peer marketing has played, particularly amongst younger communities, with the rise of TikTok, YouTube, the rise of influencers, that kind of thing. Nick is here today to talk to you about the sort of concept behind it and how you can use it to help recruit your students. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Nick from the Access platform.
Thanks, Lucy, and good afternoon, everyone. And thank you very much for taking some time out to listen to me today. By way of a very short introduction, my name is Nick Golding, and I'm currently the Strategic Development Director of the Access platform. Previously, I was one of the founders of Cambridge Education Group way back in 1998. And I mention that really for a number of reasons. One, I've been a recruiter and also obviously a provider of education for international students. And I've also worked with agents. So I understand the highly nuanced relationship between providers, agents, and students, and where different channels need to fit in. I came to the Access platform as an investor, and having had a background in both provision and recruitment, I recognized really very quickly that this was a very powerful new way to engage with students and then to convert and recruit them. And that's really why I decided to come out of retirement and come back into the international education space and work with the Access platform. And I'll try to explain why I think the work we're doing is so relevant and important during the course of this presentation. So, oops, where is my little pointer taking me? Sorry about this, Lucy. I'm having a glitch on trying to, oh, there we go. So to give you an outline of the presentation, what I'm going to cover in this 45-minute slot is why is TAP relevant, the Access platform relevant to universities, colleges, schools, and agents? Exactly what is our platform? What does it consist of, and what does it do? Who are the partners who currently work with us and the future partners that we're going to be working with? What does the Access platform actually look like in action? And then I'm going to do quite a detailed case study involving one of our partners, the University of Adelaide, on a conversion campaign that they did at the beginning of last year. And finally, I'd like to summarize with how peer-to-peer can dramatically increase lead generation and conversion for all of our partners. Can you hear me okay, Lucy?
Yes, absolutely fine.
Okay, so to set the scene now, what I found fascinating when I rejoined the international education sector, if you like, in 2018, when I invested in the platform, is actually how little had changed since I had been working at Cambridge Education Group in terms of the marketing to students and the recruitment of students. And yet, two very important changes have taken place in the marketplace. One of those is a generalized cynicism, if you like, about institutional messaging and a distrust that has crept in amongst consumers about institutional messaging and about brands. And that traces its origins through the financial crisis and right up to now. And at the same time, Gen Z has grown up as digital natives, and they've discovered different ways of researching and then finding out about the products that they're interested in. And in a very good example of that, and this isn't relevant to Gen Z so much, is that I doubt anyone on this call today would even think about booking a table at a restaurant or staying at a hotel that they've never stayed in before without using TripAdvisor. And I think that neatly illustrates just how Gen Z has grown up in a world in which peer referencing is available to them and natural to them. So if you take these two distinct trends, if you like, over the last 20 years, on the one hand, there's been a growth in the distrust of institutional messaging. And on the other hand, there's been the development of the way that students discover, research, and then reference the kinds of career-changing decisions that they have to make. And when I say what information what information and sources do students use and trust now, it's firmly our view that students want to see authentic content that's been created by students like them, and they want to be able to speak to their peers. And so over on the right-hand side, we have two staggering statistics. The first from Media Minds in the US in 2019, saying that only 2% of students now trust institutional messaging. And on the other hand, 64% of international students would like the ability to connect with current students. Now, if we accept that peer referencing is, and peer-to-peer is now part of the landscape and has a part to play in educational recruitment, I think there are two important points here. The first is that in adopting peer-to-peer, there are some very important challenges that it poses. And then the second is, well, where does this fit in? Where does this fit in with our current methods of marketing and engaging with students? To answer that question first, we don't pretend that this is the answer to all recruitment. We recognize that students and their parents have 3 or 4 basic questions. What and where can I study? And those kinds of questions are best answered by websites, tables, league tables, prospectuses, and so on. Then what is it like? Now that question, we believe firmly, is best answered by student ambassadors, because they are the people who are living the experience and they are the people who are trusted by their peers. But this isn't to cut out any of the other processes that are involved in student recruitment. Of course, the key questions of how can I enroll, support through the enrollment process, visa processing, and so on. These are all things that have to be managed between the relationship between the admissions team and agents. But nevertheless, we believe that the key question of what it's like, all of that experiential questions, are best answered by students who are currently living the experience. But as I said, that presents a number of challenges for our partner institutions such as OIEG. How do they mobilize and motivate student ambassadors to be good advocates online? Of course, there are safeguarding and GDPR issues. And providers have a concern about letting go of the reins. Is it sensible for them to use student ambassadors to advocate on their behalf? Agents may have the question of whether or not this kind of technology is going to cut them out from the process, which again is a key challenge and a key anxiety that needs to be addressed with our technology. COVID, you don't need me to tell you, has imposed its own challenges, and we're all now wondering how best to remotely attract and maintain engagement with students when in-person events are no longer possible. And we believe that our technology is part of that solution. Of course, data is another key challenge, and we've built the platform to enable our partners to capture the data that they need about their prospects very easily, to assimilate that data within their CRM systems, and then to be able to interrogate that data to see what kinds of conversations are taking place over the platform so that that can inform their future messaging and communication with agents in different countries in real time. So to address all of these challenges, we built the platform. And in its most basic form, this is what it looks like. If I can first of all draw your attention to the 4 buttons at the bottom, there are 4 basic features to the platform. The first is a chat functionality whereby prospects can engage in direct text conversations with student ambassadors, staff and alumni of our partner universities and colleges. The second 2 features are ways of enriching the page that is embedded on our partners' websites with answers to frequently asked questions and also content that has been created by student ambassadors. And finally, on the right-hand side is a new feature that's coming out very shortly, which is our Insights feature. This is going to enable our partners to heat score the prospects from the kinds of conversations that they are having so that they can identify whether those are hot prospects or not so hot prospects to invest their time accordingly. Insights will also tell our partners what concerns and conversations and questions are being asked all over the world in real time so that they can direct their messaging accordingly. And that may be different in different countries at different times of the year. So in the middle of the screen, you can see that the way the platform appears to its users. On the left-hand side, you have a tap page. This page sits on our partners' websites as an embedded page where prospects can come and have a look at profiles of student ambassadors, content they've created, read answers to FAQs, and then engage with the student ambassador community. And I'll show you an example of one of our partner platforms in a few minutes' time. In the center of the screen, you have the admin dashboard, and this is where our partners like Lucy manage everything that's going on the platform. They can invite ambassadors to join them. They can control the tap page on the website. They can review content that's coming through from the student ambassadors in order to publish that on the page. They can look at various conversations that are taking place to see that ambassadors are actually giving out good information and are responding in a timely way. So everything is controlled by our college administrators from the dashboard of the platform. And on the right-hand side, student ambassadors interact with the platform using a mobile app. So they can answer questions from prospects that come through. They can capture content, videos, and photographs all on their app and then send it back to Lucy for publication. So for them, it's a completely intuitive experience. They can use the app at any time of the day to suit them and to answer questions. And those conversations that are taking place between prospects can either happen simultaneously or asynchronously in different time zones. And both prospects and ambassadors understand that there may be slight delays in the process as a result of that. I mentioned earlier that we through the platform, we can capture data, and I wanted to just give you 2 examples of how the platform can work for our partners. First of all, we integrate with our partners' CRM systems, so whether that's Salesforce, HubSpot, all the data that is captured on the platform can seamlessly be stored in our partners' CRM systems. So once they've captured that data, they can use it within their other marketing activities. In addition, we use an RSS feed for all of the content that student ambassadors have created. And if that's been approved, it can be published out onto social media using a social media management platform such as Hootsuite very, very easily. So the proposition here is that administrators can capture authentic content from within their student ambassador community very easily. And then if they like that content, they can post it to social media almost instantly. As I mentioned, I joined the Access platform in 2018. And at that point, we hadn't actually launched version 2 of the platform. We did that in April 2019. And we're now working with 120 college and university partners throughout the world. Naturally, we started in the UK, and here in the UK, we're working with Oxford, Cambridge, UEA, Sheffield, Sunderland. We're also working with a number of other organizations such as the Sutton Trust. We're working with approximately 35 universities in Australia and New Zealand, and another 15 or so in the US and Canada. We also have partners in Switzerland, Singapore, in fact, all over the world. Now, I think it's quite important that to mention that although we have principally been working with universities because we felt that that was the biggest target market to address to begin with, we have also been working with a number of pre-university colleges and schools. So these fall into 3 different categories. We're working with Oxford International Education Group on its university pathways. We're working with NC UK with Into Education, Into University Partnerships, and also another pathway provider in New Zealand, Up Education. So these are examples of the platform being used to address pre-university students, not just students who are about to be admitted to university. Actually, in the school space, although we haven't really addressed the school space, particularly up until now, we have been working with a number of schools. So we worked with Long Bay College in New Zealand. They became a partner of ours 14 months ago. And they use the platform by using alumni as ambassadors to speak to their prospects. Rochester Independent College in the UK is about to go live with the platform, and they're using a combination of current students, largely from their 6th form, some alumni, and also some staff ambassadors. UTP High Schools is another high school use case. This is an organization in America where students enroll to study for 2 years at high school senior high school before going on to university. And finally, a very, very interesting use case that we've just begun work with is Dulwich International College in Singapore. Now, in Dulwich's case, they're actually using their parents as ambassadors for engagement with other parents. You'll probably be aware that they go from an age range of 3 to 18, and they thought that it was that their best ambassadors for that age group were in fact parents, and they've mobilized the parent community to do that. And that's working incredibly successfully. We began that pilot with Dulwich in Singapore, and we're rolling it out amongst the rest of the group over the next 6 months because the quality of engagements has been so high. Similarly, in the UK, we've been working with a number of other school age organisations, including the Sutton Trust, which is one of the big sponsors of social mobility in the UK, trying to encourage UK youngsters to go to university where they haven't previously had a history of going to university. We also work with the Fulbright Commission in the US, and here we're trying to encourage UK youngsters from disadvantaged backgrounds to study at US universities if they haven't thought of doing that. And finally, we work with a number of government government agencies in the UK called UniConnect. Very similar to the Sutton Trust, these are government sponsored organisations who want to encourage disadvantaged youngsters aged 13 plus to go to university. And I mention this because although the platform was originally designed for interactions between students around the age of 17, 18, 19, 20. What we're now seeing is that more and more interactions are taking place with students who are younger than 18. They too are digital natives. They too want to speak to their peers naturally in making their choices about schools, colleges, and higher education. So we're beginning to see more and more partners who have school-age students who are using those students as ambassadors and indeed as content creators, because those content creation projects can be very useful to the students' curriculum studies. So, for example, if they're studying the baccalaureate, that can count as part of their community action service component of that qualification. So I mentioned earlier our partners, and here are some examples of the TAP page on their website. When this presentation is sent to you afterwards, you'll be able to click on these links to have a look at it for yourselves in practice. Towards the end of this, I will actually come on to give you a demo on OIEG's website. But very briefly, you can see over on the right-hand side, what it is a searchable feed that sits as a dedicated page on our partners' websites. And there you can see some examples of group chats that prospective students can join at any point, and they can have a look at some of those chats before joining. And you can see on the right-hand side also some profiles of student ambassadors who volunteered to work as ambassadors on behalf of our partners. Prospects can have a look at those profiles, and you can see right at the bottom there is a call to action: chat to me. I can't do that in the middle of this presentation, but it's very easy for students to sign up having identified a partner, a profile of a student who is like them, and then they can initiate a conversation, and I'll show you what that looks like very, very soon. Just to give you an idea of how effective the platform is, here are some statistics from different partners of ours. So I mentioned earlier that we work with NC UK, the pathway provider. They've seen nearly a 500% increase in website engagement on our page as a result of using content very smartly. So they use our content creation tool, gather content from their student ambassadors, and prospects find that so engaging that it increases the time they spend on the TAP page and want to interact with student ambassadors. We did a survey a couple of years ago amongst prospects across all of our partners at the time, and nearly 3/4 of those prospects said that they are either more likely or much more likely to apply to that partner having had an interaction over the platform and chatting to a student ambassador. Bucks New University is one of our partners. They've been working with us in the UK for 2 years now, and nearly 1/4 of the prospects who use the Access platform went on to apply to Bucks New University. So that's a really powerful number, and something like 6 times more powerful than any of their other digital channels. I want to draw your attention here to the University of Adelaide, because I'm going to come on to that shortly. They saw a staggering surge in their applicant to enrolment conversion. University of Sheffield did a clearing campaign last year. They saw 78% conversion as a result of that clearing campaign. And over last year, we had engagements from prospects in 172 different countries. So it really has massive geographical reach. I'm going to speak now particularly, oh, Lucy, how do I turn that one back? Sorry. About a particular conversion campaign that we did with the University of Adelaide at the beginning of last year, because I think this demonstrates just how personal the Access platform can be, but also how powerful it can be. So if you cast your minds back to January last year, the impact of COVID was just beginning to be felt. And this is in the run-up for Australia's start of their academic year in April. So it's absolutely crucial for them that they maximize the conversion that they could, knowing the coronavirus was about to have a huge impact. What they did was really quite simple. They sent emails to all of their offer holders in which they embedded links of their student ambassadors. And what they did was they matched student ambassadors according to their prospects. So if it was a prospect from Thailand, they sent them a profile of a Thai student ambassador. If it was a student from Japan, they sent them a student profile of a Japanese student ambassador, with a very simple call to action saying, look, you are an offer holder, you probably would like to know more about what studying and life is like at Adelaide, chat to this ambassador. And from that embedded link that the prospect received, they were able to start or use that link to get hold of the student ambassador's profile and initiate a conversation. So this campaign lasted for 3 months. Over that time, 12,000 different text messages were exchanged between those offer holders and student ambassadors. The prospects came from 59 different nationalities, and the University of Adelaide saw that their normal applicant conversion rate, which is around 18%, surged to 66% conversion from those offer holders. That's the highest conversion rate that the University of Adelaide has ever seen. As a result of that, that particular team was nominated for and won an internal prize. And so successful was that campaign that Adelaide then, on their induction day, had a Meet Your Ambassador event at which all prospects who had engaged over the platform in those 3 months were invited to meet the ambassadors that they engaged with. And there were hundreds and hundreds of students and ambassadors in the room. And it was a lovely touch to make those prospects feel even more at home on the day of their arrival, to come and talk to their ambassadors and see that other students had interacted like they had done over the platform. So in that way, it created an immediate sense of community. We've seen a number of other conversion activities by our partners. Into did a very similar one where they sent emails to matched ambassadors at their centers in the US, and that worked very well for them. We've seen some of our partners use the Access platform as part of their open day events, with both group chats going on, live and asynchronous chats. And of course, those chats can start on those open days, but then they can continue long after them once that event is over. Universities and pathway providers have also used the platform for what they have called closed offer holder and applicant events. In other words, they've only invited offer holders or applicants to those events in order to give them further information, hopefully to convert them and enable them to have interactions with academic staff as well as current students at the college. We introduced a new feature earlier in the year of group chats, and this is where prospects can join group chats that are already taking place on the platform. If they're not quite ready to have an individual conversation, they may feel more comfortable joining a group chat and seeing what's going on there before they actually register for the service. Now, this slide is a little bit untidy, and I'm sorry about that, because I wanted to show you the graphics from something really interesting that one of our other partners did, Swinburne University. They have used part of the platform to create native language tap pages. So you can see here, all of this is in Chinese. The platform supports interactions in any language whatsoever. So an additional way to help students feel more at home about using the service for Swinburne was to translate all of the page into Chinese and to invite their Chinese offer holders to speak to their ambassadors over the platform. And as you can see, everything here is in Chinese, but this is just a filtered page of the site. So their English version of the site continued in the background as well. So it would be theoretically possible to have a Chinese site, a Japanese site, a Thai site, a German site, as well as your English-speaking site, so that ambassadors can communicate with those prospects comfortably in their native languages. And I should say that all of these activities have tracking embedded in them, so that we and our partners can track how these students have been originated and how they came to this page. So agents, for example, are given a specific code so that OIEG will know that an individual student has come through an originating agent. And the intention here is to encourage agents to encourage students to interact with student ambassadors over the platform like this, so that they increase their own conversion as well as for their partners. So we see this as very much complementary to existing recruitment activities, where agents can say, look, if you would like to speak to students at the school or the college or the university, they have students from our country. They may even have student ambassadors from that agency who those prospects can interact with. And this is very reassuring, as you can imagine, for the students concerned. So how does peer-to-peer do it? Well, you can see here a group chat going on with one of our partners, Gonville and Keys. It does it by building trust and confidence through authentic insights. Prospects feel that they can trust the insights that their peer students are giving them in a way that they don't necessarily trust the college staff to do that. It works by connecting offer holders and prospects with students like them, especially when they're unable to visit campus and meet those students for themselves. It also enables them to ask the questions they want without fear of feeling silly or having their applications in any way marked or prejudiced by the questions that they ask. And in this way, as you can see on the right-hand side, it can build a sense of pre-arrival community and belonging and trust in the institution before prospects have even got there. And it sets our partners apart because prospects feel that they are transparent in the way that they go about things and the value that they attach to their students by placing their ambassadors online and trusting them to advocate on their behalf. So, very quick summary of the solution. We enable our partners to engage with their prospects in the way that those prospects now want to be engaged with, and in our view, to mobilize their most powerful assets and advocates, student ambassadors. The platform can be targeted, can be purposed to any target audience, so whether that's international recruitment, domestic recruitment, even widening participation. And as you saw earlier, you can have parent and student ambassadors as well as staff as alumni. It allows our partners easy centralized management of their student ambassadors and of the content that they want to display from their user-generated content groups. It works at all parts of the recruitment funnel and throughout the cycle, and builds long and enduring relationships between prospects and ambassadors. Clearly, it works remotely and creates engagements with prospects all over the world, even during COVID. It allows our partners easy data capture and management and integration, and it gives our partners powerful insights into the concerns and behaviors of the prospects through the conversations that they are having. Lucy, what I'd like now to be able to do is come out of here and somehow get on to, here I can do it, I think, onto some partner websites. So what I'm going to do is demonstrate what the Access platform actually looks like here. And here you can see the platform sitting on OIEG's website. If I scroll down, you can see that there is a call to action, chat to our students. I may need to refresh my screen here. I think I do. And here we go. So what you can see here is content that is being created. I'm just going to go back to the normal homepage. So this is OIEG's tap page feed. You can see it is a searchable feed. So anyone who comes onto the platform can type in a search term. That could be a subject, for example. It could be a country where student ambassadors come from, and they can search everything here on the page as a result of that. But what I particularly wanted to show you are these student ambassador profiles. These give your prospects an idea of the ambassadors who are available for them to talk to over the platform. They can see, for example, where they're studying, what their interests are. If a student wants to see more profiles, they can click on here and they will get more profiles of students from different countries, and in this case, different pathway programs from OIEG who are on the platform. And then below the ambassadors, prospects can see content that's being created by the student ambassador community. They can engage with that content if they want to. They can see more examples of content that's being created by student ambassadors if they want to. And below that, we have frequently asked questions that the administrator has asked of the student ambassadors. They've written a response and the administrator has then published it. Now, the idea here is so that a prospect can come to the page, they can find out lots of information about what it is like studying on an OIEG pathway by looking at those frequently asked questions. They can surf through the content field and see what life is like at OIEG by doing that. And then when they're ready, they can begin to have a chat conversation with a current student ambassador. Now, if I would like to do that, all I need to do is click on this button here. As a prospect, I will be asked to get started. All I have to do is fill out some very basic details about me, which include my name, my email address, my password. I might have, OIEG may want me to answer a few additional questions like how old I am or the year that I would like to start. But after I've done that, all of my details are captured by OIEG. I won't click on that now, but then those details are captured and I can begin that conversation with Victoria there. Now, to give you an example of what those kinds of conversations look like, you now have an admin view of the dashboard. You can see on the right-hand side here, lots of different conversations that have been taking place. And this is how those conversations look to an admin. All of those conversations are completely visible. If Lucy were the administrator, she would be able to see everything that is taking place in that chat conversation, all the questions that are being asked and the answers that are being given. And if necessary, and for example, if inaccurate information was being given out, Lucy would be able to step into that conversation and say, I'm sorry, you've received slightly inaccurate information, but I can correct that for you now. I won't go into the back end of the platform in great detail now because we don't have the time, but suffice to say, a lot of reporting is also available to Lucy. She can look in the platform here at how the performance of her ambassadors, how many prospects have joined in the last 24 hours or over the last 6 months, where they come from. All kinds of rich data like that is available. So I think I am coming up to the time when we should open up the discussion to everybody else. So if it's all right with you, Lucy, I think I'll stop sharing. Is that okay?
Absolutely, yes. Thank you very much, Nick. That was a really insightful presentation about something that personally really interests me, because I think it's fascinating to sort of see how younger people are less influenced by corporate communications, and they want something more authentic. So thank you very much.
It's actually, if I can just interrupt you there, this isn't just me saying this. There is there's a lot of now respected academic study about how the models of trust have evolved from medieval times, when it was all local trust, through to institutional trust, and now what is called distributed trust, where institutions can no longer rely just on their brands and their messaging to create trust amongst their customers or consumers. So it's not just me saying that. There's a lady called Rachel Botsman, who's the chair. She's a fellow of trust at the Said Business School in your hometown of Oxford, Lucy.
Wonderful. We have had a few questions while you have been speaking. So the first couple are surrounding the rewards for ambassadors and incentives. So obviously it's probably quite a time-consuming exercise to sort of try and keep these prospective students engaged. So what are they offered in return?
Good question. Let me just deal with the first or the second question that wasn't asked. It's not as time-consuming as you might think for the student ambassadors, because they don't have to be, for example, on campus for an open day for a set period of time. They can do their ambassadorial work on their app around the rest of their timetable. And what we found is that across all of our 120 or so partners, the average time that an ambassador spends on the app is 59 minutes a week. So about 4 hours a month, not a huge amount of time. But of course, pay and compensation is a crucial part of this. We've done a lot of work amongst our partners, and they remunerate ambassadors in a number of different ways. Universities tend to pay their ambassadors, and no doubt about that, and they have established models for doing that. But I say that, but for example, Cambridge and Oxford University, they don't pay their ambassadors at all. All of their widening participation ambassadors are voluntary, and they do it because they believe that widening participation and diversifying the student body at Oxford and Cambridge is a very worthwhile thing to do. However, within the platform, we have also developed incentives for the student ambassadors to use the platform without the incentive of payment. So we've got a leaderboard, and it's gamified, and all of the ambassadors get points for the amount of content they've created, the questions that they've answered, and so on. And some of our partners, for example, don't offer money to ambassadors, but they'll offer an Amazon token at the end of the month to the ambassador who is at the top of the leaderboard, or their best 3 performing ambassadors. But we did a I don't know if you read our white paper, Lucy, but we did a white paper about 4 months ago on the motivations of student ambassadors, and it was fascinating. They are not principally motivated by money. The first thing that they are motivated by is to talk about their journey and also to talk about the college that they're proud of representing. The second reason that they do it is to improve their own communication skills and confidence about, for example, interacting with people. But the third reason that ambassadors said that they did this is for career experience and reference. And what we've done is built into the platform a career reference facility so that an ambassador at any time can download a career reference from Oxford International Education Group saying, I was a student ambassador for OIEG for 9 months. During that time, I did this much work. The platform counts how many interactions that student had, counts how many pieces of content, and then the reference automatically says, and I did all of this work, and therefore I acquired all of these skills. And at the bottom of that reference, it says, you know, Oxford International Education Group. Now that reference can be given without intervention by you or any other member of staff, Lucy, and the ambassadors find that incredibly helpful. You wouldn't believe the number of ambassadors that are on LinkedIn and their profile says, I am a student ambassador for Aston University or Dundee or whoever it is.
Wonderful, thank you. And then we've had a more specific question from Rachel Huntley. So she says, I have a tutoring company and school placement agency. How would the platform work for us specifically?
Right, tutoring agency, you could use the platform in that respect to encourage students who aren't yet working with you to become clients of yours, and therefore you can use it as a recruitment tool. As a school's placement tool, you could use that either to connect with ambassadors that you've successfully placed at schools, or to connect with the school's own ambassadors with permission by them if they are using student ambassadors. Does that answer the question?
Yes, yeah, I think it was just which areas, whether it would be sort of the content that's generated, whether that could be shared by the agency or whether there's another way they could use it. Great. And is there a danger of users kind of seeing through peer-to-peer engagement and actually becoming more distrusting of a brand as a result, because they sort of see it as the brand not being upfront about their communications with them, but trying to use students to
well, no, I think it's actually completely transparent and upfront, isn't it? It's actually saying, look, speak to our ambassadors and hear directly from them. There's a certain amount of risk involved in doing that. And I think students, rather than being cynical about it, actually value the fact that, value two things, that the schools are transparent enough to place ambassadors online, but also that they value those ambassadors enough for them to be part of the institution, if you like. I think that says something about that institution. So no, we haven't yet seen examples of prospects distrusting the use of ambassadors. I think the other is true, which is if an institution doesn't use ambassadors, what's it afraid of?
Sure, yeah. And then there was a question, do you offer smaller packages for small independent agents?
We offer small packages for all of our customers. So our pricing is very much based on how much traffic and each of our customers will see and how much value they will get for it. So we work with very small customers. You know, even Cambridge colleges, they're not that big. They're only about 300 undergraduates at each college, right through to, I mean, you know, we're talking some very, very large universities in Australia and the US with 45,000 or so students. So yeah, we offer packages to suit all sizes of possible customer.
Wonderful. I think that's all the questions we've received so far. If anybody does have another question, feel free to raise your hand and we can allow you to speak. Okay, in that case, I think we'll wrap up the session. But just leaves me to say thank you very much, Nick, for your time today. It's been a very insightful presentation. Just to let you know, as Nick said earlier, we'll be circulating the presentation and the recording of the presentation after the event. And that will have Nick's details as well if you're interested in pursuing the Access platform. But yes, thank you very much, Nick. Very much appreciate your time today. I know you've got another webinar this afternoon, so very much appreciate it.
My parting message, Lucy, is that, you know, even if the audience is not interested in using our platform for themselves, please encourage your students to engage with the platform at any of our partners that are using it, because I think that they will get very useful, relevant first-hand insights from those partners and their ambassadors.
Completely agree. Thank you very much. Right, so there's another session starting at 12:30, and that will be visa training with Steve Paxton and Sean Dalton from Newland Chase. So do hang around for that session. But right now, yeah, we're 8 minutes early, so go and grab yourself a cup of tea.
Thank you, Lucy. Thank you, everyone.
That's it. Speak to you soon. Thank you.